The streets are paved with platinum. Hello and welcome to today's Daily Blitz. Now, as you can see, my normal co-host Nikolai Hubble is not here today. He became a dad over the weekend, so he's taking some paternity leave, so you'll just be with me today. But in today's video, I'd like to highlight an interesting dynamic that I've been writing a lot about recently, and it's all about environmental regulations, which we will definitely be seeing more of in the years to come, and how to play those regulations to profit, to make take advantage of a speculative opportunity. So I showed this in one of our blitzes last week, but this is 1 troy ounce of palladium, which I bought back in 2016. And palladium is used, as you may already know, in catalytic converters in cars. They are what reduce the amount of emissions that comes out of the exhaust. They're the large box that is just down from the exhaust underneath your car. And as I think we've spoken about in previous Daily Blitzes, there's been a massive spate of thefts of catalytic converters all throughout the UK and in plenty of places in America as well. And it's all because of the gigantic price rally in palladium, but also in rhodium as well, which is another platinum group metal that helps reduce those emissions. Now, I bought this back in 2016. Really as a hedge, or I thought of it as a hedge to my physical gold holdings. So it's another way of having a tangible asset outside the financial system, which will actually do well if the global economy continues to improve and you get an increase in the growth of the global middle class who want cars. So really, if gold goes up when things are going bad, palladium should go up when things are going well, because there'll be increased demand for cars from people who are earning plenty of money, who are saving plenty of money, people who are starting families, things like that. Now, last time I checked, or at the time of recording, the price of palladium is $2,380. It has pulled back from the gigantic parabolic move you can see in the 5-year chart on your screen now. However, I believe actually that provided the coronavirus doesn't get really bad and really and destroy the global economy to some degree, that we shall see a resume in price going up. And it's all a result of a supply squeeze that has been created by regulations. So I bought my ounce of palladium thinking that, well, if the global economy does well, this will do well. But what I wasn't really thinking about at the time, or not nearly as much as I should have been, is that really there was just going to be an increase in demand for palladium because there will be more environmental regulations. So as I'm sure you will be aware, there is a huge amount of climate activism these days, and there's a huge amount of political support for increased environmental regulation. So what has really driven the price of palladium through the roof in recent days is the China 6 legislation and the Bharat Stage 6 legislation in India and China, respectively. So in China's case, which is a real source of growth for the auto market, for cars in general, pretty much legislated that petrol cars would require 30% more palladium in their catalytic converters. So even though the global car manufacturing industry had a very bad time in 2019 overall, demand was pretty weak. There were a lot of people fearing deflation and in general a lack of global growth. You still saw the price of palladium really shoot up, and it was just as a result of regulation. So what I really want to stress here is that regulators can effectively make their own luck. Even if the market demand isn't there, they can create the market demand by legislating it higher. So interestingly, though China 6 and Bharat Stage 6 have been in the works for years, market participants did not anticipate this gigantic rally. It only happened very recently. So do bear that in mind when you hear about more environmental regulations coming down the line. There will likely be massive unintended consequences which affect the price of assets, and this is something you can speculate over. Now, interestingly, if you take a look at the Google Trend data for the search term buy palladium, it has recently just gone through the roof, and that's over the last 5 years. So even while the price of palladium was slowly rising over the last 5 years before having this sudden blow-off moment in the last few months, really, you'll see that people speculators weren't interested in buying palladium for the last 5 years until now. So it's interesting that speculators are now coming very late to the party, and it'll be interesting to see how they actually affect the price through purchasing palladium through ETFs or even going physically. Even going for physical bullion like I did. And as a further unintended consequence of this gigantic palladium rally, you've seen that effectively over 2019, it's cost the global auto industry, provided they weren't hedging their bets, which is unlikely, $19 billion. So this stuff is really starting to cut across the entire industry. And it's something that we're going to have to get used to more and more as investors when you're thinking about how the relationship between individual private companies and the government and environmental regulation regulation and then commodities as well. So just to sum up, what's happened in palladium is something I think is going to happen a lot more with all manner of other assets when you get more environmental regulation coming down the line. And interestingly, even though they had years in preparation, the market was not ready for this new legislation. It caused this gigantic spike really late. And this is something I was predicting was going to occur in early of December last year. And it's something we shared with the Fleet Street Letter monthly alert readers. So I'm very glad that the Fleet Street readers managed to get ahead of the curve when it comes to palladium and rhodium. Rhodium in particular has gone particularly parabolic, even more so than palladium to some degree. But remember, when the next big raft of environmental regulation comes down the line, think of the unintended consequences, because if it's anything like palladium, it's likely that the market is not ready for them, and you can take advantage of that. But that sums up today's Daily Blitz. Thank you very much for watching, and be sure to tune in to the next one.